What's up guys, Intentional back with yet another video, and this one we're going to be talking about a raid within Classic World of Warcraft. A raid that actually broke a few guilds. A raid that has two rooms that are dreaded by all players, especially those who are willing to go back for transmogs. Yes, we're going to be talking about the BackWingLair. Now you see, Nefarian, son of Deathwing, who was the leader of the Black Dragonflight, sought to expand his army and vowed to vanquish the Fire Lord, Ragnaros. Now, set up on his lair up top Blackrock Mountain, Nefarian builds his forces, and unknown to many, starts a plan to produce an almost near-invincible warrior by experimentation with the blood of all the other dragonflights. Now, what was known is that his army was in fact building, and he had to be stopped. His mortal foes, the Red Dragonflight, had already began fighting them. And this is actually where us, the players, come in. Like any other raid before, we had to gain entry to it with an attunement, although this one is pretty damn easy compared to the others. Right outside the entrance to Blackrock Spire saw a mob called the Scarshield Quartermaster, who would then drop the Black Hand's command, starting a quest on what you need to kill Dragonsath, the last boss in the Upper Blackrock Spire, to be able to use an orb outside of the Spire entrance that would then teleport you to the raid, BackWingLair. Now, once players had actually gained entry, they were met with a pretty straightforward raid with 8 bosses to conquer. And right off the bat, the first boss, Razorgore, was already unique to anything the players had seen before. You see, there's actually an orb in the room that one player had to control that would then mind control the boss, which was then used to destroy the eggs all around him. Destroying the eggs would then send out trash mobs that the raid would have to deal with, either straight out killing the mobs or having hunters kite them around the room. And after the eggs were destroyed, you would then fight Razorgore, who was admittedly pretty simple. He did an AoE attack that you could outrange or simply hide behind a pillar and avoid it. And the tanks had to swap once one had become confused and couldn't attack, and that's about it. It was a pretty simple fight overall. And most encounters in this raid were a bit new. Veil, the second boss, was a gear check in which players got unlimited resources and could dish out as much damage as they could. Well, depending on how good their tank was, but still, he would have a bomb debuff in which random players would become a bomb and they'd have to run away before exploding, otherwise they risked the entire raid group. Same as Gar from Molten Core. So it was a huge gear check in the sense that players had to kill him before everyone died from the bomb. If you didn't have the damage, then you couldn't get past it. And funny enough, from what I've read, it seems to be the tanks causing the biggest problem. It seems that tanks couldn't produce enough threat for the raid to deal with the damage that was needed. This led to quite a few guilds actually breaking apart. They would become restless, going for hours on end, weeks at a time with no advancement in the raid due to this boss. Oh yeah, this raid was pretty annoying. Ever heard of the Suppressor Room, nicknamed the Depression Room by players? It was 2 rooms filled with these machines that rogues had to disarm. These machines would slow players down if a rogue didn't get it in time. Oh, and they were filled with mobs also. And you had to go through in order to get to the 3rd boss, who you would actually fight in the 2nd room of the Suppression. He was also pretty annoying because threat was a big deal with him. Most range would just have to wand the entire fight until the execute phase. And then after that you had the 3 dragons next, each doing a spell called the Shadow Flame, which dealt a crap ton of damage to players in front of the boss, and would usually wipe a raid. So you had to have this thing called the Onyxia Scale Cloak on, which is crafted by leatherworkers. But you need a skill of Onyxia, which could only be attained from killing Onyxia and skinning her. And she needed 315 skinning. The cap was 300. So players actually had to go out and find items such as Finkel's Dagger or Zulian Slicer in order to get their skinning up high enough in order to actually skin her. This room also dropped Hourglass of Time for mobs, which had to be used on the 7th boss to get rid of a debuff he would give, called the Bronze Affliction. This debuff, which would randomly stun players, made it very hard to do much of anything. And this boss was annoying in that you actually had to hide around corners and then come out, do some DPS, and hide around corners, and healers had to be on top, swapping out, healing the tank and whatnot. But overall, pretty fun fight actually. I really enjoyed this one. Also, fun fact, Cro-Magus would actually be tameable later on within World of Warcraft, and I feel like he's a pretty cool pet to get. Now on to the last boss, you actually got to fight Nefarian, which was pretty fun in my personal opinion. Before the fight, you would have to split the raid into 2 groups as mobs would spawn from 2 areas. A few waves later, the Nef would show up himself. He would periodically fear people, so he had the LOS. He also did Shadow Flame, so tanks had their cloaks on. He would also call out random classes, and negative things would happen to that specific class, such as Druids going cat form or Priest healing spells actually doing damage to friendly targets instead. Blizzard actually loved this so much that they added unique debuffs for all classes to come, such as Death Knights and Monks. This raid also had a few more quirks to it. For example, the Elementium bars that would drop in it were needed in the crafting of Thunder Fury, and the quest completion for weapons within AQ40. It was also the only place besides Golomance that had an alchemy table needed to craft flask. So it is pretty common to do a quick table run in order for flasks to be made for the guild. You can't forget about Tier 2 either, which a majority of it drops from here. These sets are pretty dope, and the Wrath/Judgment set is pretty iconic within WoW, with a lot of people cosplaying as it. Plus the iconic weapons/items you get from this raid as well. I could think of Nefarian's Tear, Mishendir, Circle of the Mind Flayer, Ash Candy. There's so many good items that drop from this raid that I can't wait to do it again. And I actually hope I get the tier this time. I ran BWL, I would say at least 50 times, and I never got the tier. So hopefully my luck is better for Classic WoW. Yeah, this raid is pretty dope, and I'm actually sort of looking forward to it. The suppression room sucks ass. I don't really want to do it, but I think I can manage. Anyhow, are you guys hyped for it? How far did you guys get back in Classic WoW? Is there anything else you guys want me to cover? Feel free to put it down in the comments. Like if you liked the video, and sub if you want to see more content like this. I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Peace.